Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smile. Siva gedola, liot liot besimcha. Siva gedola, liot liot besimcha. Siva gedola, liot liot besimcha. Siva gedola, liot besimcha. Siva gedola, liot 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 besimcha.
Breakfast with Elli.
Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati bechemla raba emunatecha.
Noya mavdil ben kodesh lechol.
Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Elli. Good Vach. It is Sunday, the 14th day of August, the 17th day of Menachem. The Torah portion is Eikev. HaYom Yom Rishon LaShabbos, the first day, counting up toward Shabbos, and we will be learning the first Aliyah. Good morning, how are you? And the name of the parsha, very, very interesting, cool stuff today. How are you? What's new? Good Tavach, Shavua Tov, a good week. I hope your Shabbos was absolutely amazing. And the week to come, everything you need it to be. My Shabbos was absolutely, positively fantastic. You have no idea. My Shabbos started with a visit, a surprise visit, no less, from one of my children, Levi. He should live and be well, and his beautiful, beautiful, beautiful family, who adorned our Shabbos table. Oh, would you like to see? I don't have the family picture, but I do have a picture of our Shabbos table. How about that? You like that? Isn't that cool? You want to see the other angle? I have the other angle too. Here we go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, we had an amazing Shabbos with my two grandkids. Yeah, it was really cool. So thank you very much for coming. I really appreciated it, and I hope you all had as amazing a Shabbos as I did. All right, we are in a countdown this week to the Parshas Eikev. It's a big Parsha, and we're going to talk about that coming up. First, let's do a mitzvah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat tzitzit.
All right, I kind of sprung that on you. Yeah, one of my things moved over here. All right, bracha and tzitz is done. Al divrei Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
Right, Hareini Mekabel.
Hareini Mekabel alai mitzvat aseh shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I take upon myself every single day to love my fellow friend in a very special way.
All right, Torah tziva lanu.
Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov.
All right, let's give tzedakah.
I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box.
All right.
Put it in the pushki for someone else to keep.
We are now increasing giving tzedakah between now and
Put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box.
Between now and Rosh Hashanah.
For someone else in need.
Whatever you do, add something. Even if it's just a penny, just add something so that you are increasing in tzedakah in the now 44 days we have left until Rosh Hashanah. Yes, 44 days till Rosh Hashanah. I know, it doesn't seem like any time whatsoever, right? Okay. Now, saying the Shema. Are you ready? Let's go.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
All right, fantastic. All right, and now it's time to make a bracha shahakol. All right, I got my yogurt, I got my coffee. I don't know what you have, but I hope you have something. All right, are you ready? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shahakol nihiyah b'dvaroi. All right. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Or as Aliyah says, coffee, blessed coffee. Yeah. He's got a very cute song about that. I'll have to find it for you and I'll play it. Maybe tomorrow, okay? All right. For right now, we are going to go to today in Jewish history. 67 Jewish men, women, and children were slaughtered, and scores wounded, raped, and savaged by their Arab neighbors in the city of Hebron. They rioted for 3 days amid cries of "Slaughter the Jews." The killings began on a Friday afternoon of the 17th of Av, and most of the victims passed away on Shabbos, the 18th day of Av. Not a good day. The Queen of Poland granted the Jews of Pinsk all the rights already granted to the Jews of Lithuania in the year 1533. In 1882, riots broke out in Yekaterinoslav, which is now Dnepropetrovsk, I can't say that, and spread throughout Russia. 120 families arrived in Buenos Aires in 1889 and gave birth to the modern Argentinian community. The Argentinian community today numbers between 250 and 300,000 Jews, as many as 200,000 in Buenos Aires alone. Winston Churchill paid tribute to the Royal Air Force during World War II with his famous quote that so much was owed by so many to so few in 1940. The oil pipeline from Eilat to Haifa was completed in 1958, and in the year 1988, King Hussein of Jordan announced his intention to politically disengage from the West Bank, leaving the PLO to fill the political vacuum. And Iraq annexed Kuwait in 1990, prompting the first Gulf War, which resulted in a barrage of 39 Scud missiles attacking Israel, and thank God, no fatalities. Wow. Can you imagine? All right. We have one final Beis HaMikdash update for you. Day 21. Let me get it for you. Hold on. I do have a graphic to show you. Here we go. Just pop it in right here. All right. Day 21. Within the latticed partition, was the Chayal, a rampart which was 10 amos high. Beyond the Chayal was the Azara, the courtyard, which was 187 amos long and 135 amos wide. Remember, an amma is a handbreadth. The Azara had 7 gates. These were the north side, close to the west. 3 were on the south side, close to the east, and 1 was positioned in the center, directly opposite the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies. All right. So there you go. Thank you for learning Hilchos Beis HaBechira from the Hilchos Bechira broadcast that was done just recently on WhatsApp. May we speedily see the experience and experience the Beis HaMikdash physically, speedily in our days with the arrival of Mashiach Tzidkenu b'mheira b'yameinu. Amen. All right. HaYom Yom for today, the 17th day of Av.
You've probably noticed that people who are new to Torah observance often have much more interest, excitement, passion in the way that they keep the mitzvahs than people who've just been doing it all along. It's common for people who grew up in Torah observance to have, do things by rote, much less, excitement can be a compliment. Sometimes there is no excitement there at all. So what's the remedy for somebody like that who's just kind of cruising along, doing mitzvahs because that's what I did yesterday, a year ago? My parents always did it this way. How do you instill passion and excitement in those mitzvahs? Well, I suppose you can advise that person why don't you stop observing mitzvahs for a couple of years, and then when you come back, it'll all be all fresh and exciting. But I wouldn't recommend that. No, I don't think it's a good idea. So, says today's HaYom, very interesting. The third Rebbe of Chabad, the Tzemach Tzedek, was once talking about the way that we discuss the inner dimensions of the Torah, Pnimius HaTorah, Chasidus, and the way that we talk about, the way that we refer to the legal, more revealed aspects of the Torah. So we have halacha, Talmud, that's part of the revealed aspects of the Torah, Jewish law, and then on the inside, there's the mystical tradition, there's Chasidus. So he says, why is it that we refer to Chasidus, the inner part of the Torah, as fire? Why is it likened to fire? Because Chasidus is the soul, is the energizer, is the motor that gives us the drive, the passion, and the excitement to pervade the way that we observe Yiddishkeit, Judaism, in totality. There are a number of stories where the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, is teaching halacha, teaching Jewish law to his disciples. And after they complete the halacha, he says to them, now come. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to demonstrate to you how this very same halacha is studied in the next world. Now, of course, let's say you're studying the laws of kashrus. In the next world, there are no cheeseburgers. They don't have non-kosher food in the next world. So what type of the law that they're studying there is very different. It's not just about the do's and the don'ts and the practical application of the law. But in the next world, they're studying the inner meaning, the soul of that law, the purpose of that law, the inspiration behind that law. Says the HaYom, when a person studies a halacha, when a person studies an aspect of Jewish law here in this world, but knows that after 120 years, when he passes on, he will again study this same halacha in the next world and then become privy to a completely different inner dimension to this same halacha, that ignites a passion, that ignites an excitement in the halacha that fires it up and makes you experience Yiddishkeit in a completely different way.
All right. Fantastic. There we go. Yes, I've put something new here. There you go. All right. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, let's move on to breaking news. All right, for updates on the monkeypox virus, text the word monkeypox to 81336. The CDC on Friday stated that people who are exposed to the virus no longer need to quarantine at home regardless of their vaccine status, according to the new guidelines, but they should wear masks for up to 10 days and get tested for the virus on day 5 before going out. They should stay home for at least 5 days. All right. I don't understand. It's kind of contradictory. but that's what it's saying, okay? Don't be around others for at least 5 days and wear a mask for 10 days. All right. Yeah. All right, let's put that up there. Okay. You know what? I don't have a lot for you today, so let's just go to a word from our sponsors.
And now, a word from our sponsors. PestProRidall.com.
PestProRidall.com. Trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidall.com.
Tarzane Group. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to TarzanGroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565 and order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at TarzanGroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's orchid blog. And by Dina D Design. DinaDDesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications, logos, wall hangings, Judaica, and you can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text. Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Elli when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe.
All right, breakfastwitheli.live/tipjar or patreon.com/theactorsrabbi if you'd like to participate in the mitzvah of bringing this broadcast around the world. All right, we are doing the name of the Parsha. Where is my name of the Parsha gizmo? Here we go. All right, the name of the Parsha. The word Eikev literally means because or as a result of, as in the opening verse of our Parsha, as a result of your listening to these laws. Okay? 1 second, I'll get the Hebrew phrase for you here. V'haya Eikev tishma'un es hamishpatim ha'ela. If you will listen to these laws. All right? A further meaning of the word Eikev is heel. In the context of our verse, this has two implications. Heel as in Yaakov, who grabbed the heel of Esav, right? We should be, or the other way around, sorry. We should be careful in observing even the relatively minor commandments, which we might be tempted to trample with one's heel, according to Rashi's interpretation. And Torah says, our sages referred to the period immediately preceding the coming of Mashiach as Eikev, the heel, Ikvisa de Mashiach, the heel of Mashiach. So the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, said, our verse alludes to the times just before Mashiach when people will eventually listen to these laws and return to Hashem. So what's the connection between these two interpretations? Well, the absence of the Holy Temple has clearly had a detrimental effect on the spiritual health of the Jewish people. In temple times, the spiritual core of Judaism was easily accessible, and people found it simple to maintain an inspired and meaningful connection to their Creator. In times of golus, however, exile, it's a struggle to merely sustain a basic observance of the mitzvahs, never mind attaining a spiritual appreciation of them. Nevertheless, there's a unique advantage to our relatively uninspired exile Judaism, which the spiritually nourished people of the temple era did not possess. For ultimately, it is us who determine true commitment to Jewish values. For we remain dedicated to Hashem despite the fact that it's not easily inspired. We are not easily inspired to love Him and fear Him because of the holiness of the temple. We don't see Hashem. We don't feel Hashem. For our generation is merely the Eikev, the heel of spiritual sensitivity. But that's also to our advantage. We serve Hashem independent of our own feelings of inspiration, and that is the hallmark of genuine commitment. Now, having reached Eikev the Mashiach, the heel of Mashiach, we no longer wish to trample upon the minor commandments. For the distinction between minor and major is only significant for those who appreciate and understand the true worth of these mitzvahs, like the Jews of the temple era. Our greatness, however, is our simple faith. Our unsophisticated approach to Judaism connects us to the very core of Hashem's essence, which is simple and devoid of any multiplicity at all, based on a Sikha in the Rebbe's Book of Sikhas, Volume 9, page 71. Very cool. Very cool stuff. Eikev. All right. In the first Aliyah, it begins with a promise that if the Israelites will observe Hashem's commandments, they will be blessed in a multitude of ways, including the obliteration of their Canaanite enemies. Moshe asks the Israelites not to fear these enemies, for Hashem will miraculously deliver them into their hands. Moshe instructs them to destroy all the idols and their accoutrements, which they find in Canaan. Moshe then discusses their 40-year ordeal and the many tests and miracles that accompanied them along their journey out of Egypt. Moshe provides a description of the many wonderful features of the land of Israel, and we are commanded to bless Hashem after we eat, and we are sated. V'chalta v'savata. There you go. Here's Shnayim Yomi for
Parshas Eikev Rishon. So I think we've mentioned in the past that we have a concept of 613 commandments. What specifically are the 613 commandments is not clear. That is a debate. The rabbis of different generations argue to make the list of 613 commandments. Famously, the Rambam has 613, and the Ramban, in the back of what we have, the Sefer Mitzvahs of the Rambam, disagrees and points out some he should not have counted and some he should have counted. And there are multiple what we call the counters of the 613 mitzvahs. So sometimes you could say something's a mitzvah, and you say, what? Who says that? And you find that it is. Fascinating. In Rishon of Parshas Eikev, which seems like a long, it's 2 pages in the art scroll here, there's a pasuk that one of the Rishonim says is a mitzvah. Now we have a general rule. If no one performs a mitzvah, it's called a mace mitzvah. And if you do it, you get full credit for everybody else not doing it. So I'm going to give you a secret now of what's called a mace mitzvah, because I'm going to tell you a mitzvah no one counts in the 613, almost nobody counts, and it's a practical advice for every day of your life, and if you do it, you should get full credit. This is what the pasuk says. Pasuk Paraches, pasuk Beis. V'zacharta es kol haderech asher lichacha Hashem leikacha. Here it says, you shall remember the entire road on which Hashem, your God, led you. And then it says a few more words. The Charedim is an early commentator who lists mitzvahs, and again, doesn't always agree with the Rambam. The Rambam does not count this. The Ramban does not count this. The Smag does not count this. I'm not going to go through all the names. But the Charedim says, on every person, there is a mitzvah to remember the entire road that Hashem took you. That means every, I don't know how often, day, hour, life, week, you should start thinking about what direction God sent you. Which is easy. How you found your shidduch, how you got that job, what school you went to, basic things in your life you realize, in hindsight, wow, I didn't make that decision. Hashem made that decision for me, and recognize that. And that's an obligation that most people don't do. So if you land out doing it, what happens is you get extra credit for everybody who's not fulfilling this mitzvah. And I want to add to it that Hashem sends obvious messages to those who recognize it. So if you sit back on your life and you say, wow, I realized I got that job. I was so lucky. I didn't take job A, I took job B, and now I met this person for job C. Wow, Hashem led the way. The next time Hashem leads you away, he'll be more obvious about it. And therefore, your entire life, you will recognize Hashem leading your life, which can only benefit everybody. Thank you.
All right, guess who's back? Rabbi Chaim Martyr.
Boker Tov, good morning. We continue with our 3-minute daily dose of Torah. Looking this week, Parashat Eikev is this week's parasha. And looking at least to start us off, we'll see how far along we go with it, at the verse in the parasha in which Moshe turns, and these are a series of his speeches to encourage us and to direct us. Oh, I see so many shadows where we are. Let's see if I can turn this a little bit. Whatever it is. Okay, we'll just continue our recording. So Moshe says to the people, Ve'ata Yisrael, and now Israel, Ma Adonai Elohecha shoel me'imach. What is it that God your Lord asks from you? Ki im liyirat Adonai Elohecha, only, now listen to the list, to fear God your Lord. Lalechet b'chol derachav, and to walk in all of his ways. Ule'ahava oto, and to love God. V'la'avod Adonai Elohecha, and to worship and serve God, your Lord. B'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha, with all your heart and with all your soul. And there's more. Lishmor et mitzvot Adonai, to observe the commandments of God, ve'et chukotav, and his statutes, asher anochi mitzavacha HaYom, which I command you this day, l'tov lach. Okay, there's a lot there, and you say, okay, I get it. That's really pretty much the summation of what happens in the Torah. But the Torah has laid out for us all these things that we're supposed to do, a variation really of the paragraphs of the Shema. But what's most notable and challenging here, if I just read it, that phrase again, what does God ask of you? Ki'im, only. Ki'im is basically translated as only. God only asks this of you, and then lays out in front of you this this awesomely long list. So that's a question I want us I want you to ponder a little bit today. What does it mean for Moshe to say this? And I'll add to it the Gemara's basic question, because the Gemara is the one that doesn't miss it. It's not lost in the Talmud. Atu yirat shamayim milta zutrata hi. Is the fear of God just a small matter? And it really means not just the fear of God, but everything on this list. It's really just a small matter that Moshe can just flippantly say, all God asks from you is this. So I want you to think about that, ponder that a little bit today, and we'll try to take a deeper dive tomorrow to see how we might understand what Moshe will be saying to us. Because right now, he seems out of touch with the rest of us. Wishing you all a great day. Think about it. We'll talk more tomorrow.
Well, that's very interesting. What did you think of that? Yeah? All right. I think we need our 2-minute wrap.
Should you reward children or adults for good behavior? Many people will tell you that it could easily
Sorry, that's Chabad of Iceland, but we'll continue.
Give the wrong message. Because while rewards encourage people to do the right thing, it might also... When the Jewish people settled in Israel about 3,000 years ago, there was a special commandment to set up what was called cities of refuge. So if someone killed another person by accident, they were required to move to one of these cities. It served as an exile to atone for the killing, but it also served as a refuge, so the person could be protected and safe from the relatives of the person who was killed in the case that they would try to take revenge. even though the person is in exile, it's very important that they have whatever they need so that they can lead a comfortable life. Like the Torah says, and he may live. So these cities must be places that support life. Based on these words, Jewish law dictates that these cities of refuge must have proper water supply, marketplaces, and so on. Maimonides says that if a student is being exiled, their teacher must relocate to this city of refuge as well, because for the student, studying Torah is as important as life itself. But how could this be said of every student? Perhaps this would be true for some very dedicated students, but how could you say this about everyone? But this is, in fact, the law. And this is also a very powerful lesson. And that is that everyone has it in them to be successful in their studies. We should never give up on a student, because deep down, every person, every student is thirsty for knowledge, for learning, and for attaining wisdom. Perhaps we could do more to make it available in the style of the student and on the level of the student. But in the end, everyone is capable of success. We could find it within ourselves to believe in everyone.
All right. Well, now we can do our 2-minute rabbi. Here we go.
Should you reward
Jewish audio on Chabad.org.
Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, commemorates, amongst other events in our history, the conclusion of the wood chopping process for all the wood which would be used throughout the year in the Beis HaMikdash. In fact, so significant was this aspect of the day that they made an entire ceremony breaking the axes, and they called it Yom HaTavar Magal, the day of breaking the axes. The question obviously is, why are we celebrating the conclusion of a mitzvah, at least a mitzvah preparation? We don't find any other celebration for the finishing of doing a mitzvah, for finishing sitting in the sukkah or blowing the shofar. And in fact, we find it alluded to in this week's parsha, V'samtem es devarai. You should remember my words so that when Mashiach comes, you will know how to do the mitzvah. This is what Rashi teaches us, that the function of doing mitzvahs while in Gullus is so that we will be adept at performance when Mashiach comes. And so we are to be reminded that it is product, not process. It is accomplishment, not merely the routine of exercise. That we chop the wood not just for the chopping, but so that we will have wood to burn on the Mizbeach throughout the year. So often it is tempting to get caught up in the process and to forget that it is our objective to achieve a product. We are not here merely to work hard. We are not here merely to put in our best effort. We are here, in fact, to achieve. V'samtem es devarai, place these words now and never forget that the mitzvahs you do now are so that you will be skilled at them when the product time arrives, that time called the coming of Mashiach.
All right, that was fantastic. Where are we on time today? Let's see. I think we have time for, you know what let's do? Let's do a shazak. Let's give you an overview of the parsha.
The tefillin wrap. Keep the mitzvah of tefillin, Moshe continued in Vahaya im Shemoah. Tefillin are made up of 2 small boxes attached to black leather straps. Each of the 2 boxes contains the first 2 sections of Shema Yisrael and Vahaya im Shemoah, together with another 2 sections.
That's a total of 4 sections.
Boy, you sure are a mathematical genius.
Use the straps to bind one of these boxes on your hand, for it is the shel yad, the hand tefillin. Position it on your left arm opposite your heart, the center of your emotions. Place the other one, the shel rosh, the head tefillin, on your head, the center of intellect. Remember, serving Hashem requires both your heart and your mind.
Okay.
My heart and mind are both all set to serve Hashem.
Tefillin, called phylacteries in English, are worn every weekday.
Most Jews who wear tefillin do so during Shacharis, morning prayers, which usually lasts anywhere from a half hour to an hour. On the other hand, there were some great people who wore tefillin the whole day long. The author of the Hagahos Maimonios relates in the name of Rav Amram Gaon, who lived around 1,200 years ago.
We saw the Gaonim, the heads of the court, and the giants of the previous generations who would not remove their tefillin until after the Shema of the evening service.
But it's not only the giants of the previous generations. Nowadays, believe it or not, if you go to Yerushalayim, you may see a few people wearing tefillin throughout the entire day.
But you'll have to look closely, since in order not to draw attention to themselves, they may hide the shalrosh under a hat and the shalyad under their jacket.
Wearing tefillin is an important mitzvah every single day of the week.
Almost.
Surprisingly, on the holiest day of the week, Shabbos, you won't catch anyone wearing tefillin.
No reminder needed on that day to be holy.
After all, we spent pretty much all day doing holy Shabbos stuff.
And eating some awesome, delicious Shabbos food.
The roving rabbi. So Moshe Rabbeinu taught his nation about tefillin and mezuzah.
Get ready to learn about another rabbi,
also named Moshe,
who was also quite busy teaching his fellow Jews about tefillin and mezuzah.
Introducing the very special, wonderful Rabbi Moshe.
From a small town in France called Coucy.
One night, this great rabbi had a heavenly dream. In the dream, Hashem pleaded with Rabbi Moshe to travel to Spain.
Did Rabbi Moshe go back to sleep?
After all, it was just a dream.
Well, let's see.
Rabbi Moshe woke up.
Oh, what was that? A dream? It was no ordinary dream. It's a message, a mission. A heavenly mission.
Rabbi Moshe knew exactly what he had to do. He quickly packed his bags.
Whether he put a Spanish dictionary into his suitcase is anyone's guess.
And traveled all the way to Spain. It wasn't an easy trip, but somehow, some way, he made it. The courageous and ambitious rabbi traveled from one community to the next throughout Spain.
And in an area of southern France called Provence.
He would get up on a stand and cry out passionately to his fellow Jews.
My people, the mitzvahs of tefillin, mezuzah, and tzitzis are so important. If you aren't yet doing these mitzvahs, now is the time to begin. Do not miss this opportunity.
Rabbi Moshe, tell us more. Why is it so important? We live amongst non-Jews in a non-Jewish country. They don't keep these mitzvahs and they're doing fine. Why should we?
And so he explained to them in the most beautiful, inspiring way.
He spoke and spoke.
And then he spoke and spoke even more.
And even more.
And more. A lot more.
Patiently and eloquently, Rabbi Moshe explained the mitzvos in a way only he knew how, until the people, young and old, began to understand that it was not a burden, but rather a privilege to observe these mitzvos. The deeply pious and sincere words of the rabbi from the small French town affected them greatly. In the words of Rabbi Moshe,
they returned by the thousands and tens of thousands to observe the commandments of the Torah. They began to wear tzitzis and tefillin and attach mezuzos to their doors, no longer ashamed to act as Jews among their non-Jewish neighbors.
Sefer Mitzvos HaGadol Mitzvos Essay Siman 3.
Rabbi, the way you explained these few mitzvahs was so wonderful.
The people exclaimed.
Can you write it down in a book, please?
Yes, Rabbi. And while you're at it, can you explain all 613 mitzvahs of the Torah?
Rabbi Moshe was hesitant to do this. He felt that he was unworthy to write a book about such holy mitzvahs.
But one day, he had another heavenly dream. The message was clear.
Rabbi Moshe, write a book consisting of all 613 mitzvahs and make it interesting just as you did for the Jews of Spain.
Well, to make a short story long, I mean a long story short, that's exactly what he did.
He authored a book that became quite popular called Sefer Mitzvos HaGadol,
Or SMOG for short.
the Great Book of Mitzvos. It is read and learned until this very day.
And how do we know this story?
That's a great question. It's all there in his book.
Oh, and one more thing. Rabbi Moshe of Kusi lived over 800 years ago, way back in the 13th century. So, come to think of it, it seems that Rabbi Moshe was the very first one to put up a tefillin booth.
I never knew that. So interesting.
Uh-huh.
If you like this Taste of Shazak Parsha video, you'll love the complete video at shazak.com. You'll also get amazing Parsha quizzers, puzzles, Parsha on a page, and the Parsha post. Use coupon code Shazak for a great discount.
I thought you would like that. I know I did. All right, moving on to Pirkei Avot. I made a boo-boo last week. Yep, I did. I said Perek Dalet, Perek 4, and it wasn't. It was Perek 3. So we're going to do Perek Dalet this week. Perek 4, Chapter 4 of Pirkei Avos.
Avot, Perek Dalet, Mishnah Gimel. Third Mishnah, the fourth chapter of Masechet Avot. Hu haya omer, this is Ben Azar. Al di baz l'chol adam. Don't denigrate. Baz, lebazbez, to denigrate any person. Al di maflig l'chol davar. Laflig means lepeleg, is to split. But here it means marchik l'chol davar. Don't push away anything. Meaning, al di baz l'chol adam lomar, ma yuchal ploni la'azikli. What can this person do to me? She'en lecha adam, she'en lo sha'ah. Ve'en lecha davar, she'en lo makom. Because there is no person that has his hour, and there is no thing she'elo makom that doesn't have his place. So first of all, I saw that it's like a poem. Ba'ad zechol adam, he has like 4 lines. Line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4. So in line 1, adam, she'en lecha adam. Davar, and davar. So like the first line connects to the third line, and the second to the fourth. And it says the following: there's no person that doesn't have his place, his time, and doesn't have a person who doesn't have his place. Meaning, okay, al tovar rachuk shiyeh, but ein lidog, they don't have to worry about him. Why? Because there is no person that doesn't have his hour. And the Rambam says, a person would say, Iyaf sheshalo yeh lechol adam 8. Shuchal lazik bo, he can't hurt me. No, he can. He has his time. Olahu yeh to help me. Afilu b'davar muad, even something small. The Rambam that I have in my Mishnah says, it continues, if you denigrated him, he can harm you. So it's a very practical understanding. Basically all the Mefarshim, the Bartanura, right? All the Mefarshim say that. I don't have to worry about him. No, you have to worry about him. Don't say this person can't hurt me. Don't denigrate a person. It's very utilitarian because people can't hurt you. But it seems to me like, I don't know, this is kind of advice. Don't denigrate people because they can get back at you at some time. Why shouldn't you be baz l'chol adam? You shouldn't be baz l'chol adam because they're human beings. But I think, if you look, because the second part, ve'en lecha davar she'en lo makom, there is no thing that doesn't have a place. The Rabbeinu Yonah says, v'tzarich ota lizaher mimenu. You have to be careful. You have to be careful from it because it has its place. Right? Again, most of the Mefarshim said, you interpret that, seem to interpret the whole thing in utilitarian terms. Right? Because he could hurt you, it's better for you, it's not good for you. But I think if you look at it honestly, en lecha davar she'en lo makom, there is no thing, don't maflig l'chol davar, don't push away everything, because everything has a place in existence, in life. En lecha davar she'en lo makom. So if that's true, then we could apply the same thing, she'en lo adam she'en lo sha'ah. Every person has his hour, i.e., his hour. I saw this Perush of Machshevet Avot. What it means is, en lo adam she'en lo lefachot tchuna tova achat. Okay, one attribute, shit patcha, that developed, uminikalo mashma'ud b'chayut misuyim. It gives a mashma'ud, meaning, okay, and a certain kind of life. Meaning, there's no person she'en lo sha'ah that doesn't have his hour of meaning. Ve'en lecha davar she'en lo makom. So I prefer to think of it not in terms of be careful because he could get back at you, but a person shouldn't denigrate any person and push away anything, because everything in existence, every person has his value and his meaning, has has a time in the world where he brings meaning to the world, and everything has a place in the world. I choose to think that's a much more beautiful and meaningful interpretation of this Mishnah. We'll stop here, dedicate our learning, as we always do, to the memory of my father, Harav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a good day.
And there's nothing like dead air. Yes. Ha ha. Sorry about that. All right, moving on to Tehillim. Aliyah, good morning. Shavua Tov, good week. All right. Talia, where are you listening from? Always delighted to hear where people are from. I think that's great. All right. Singing chapter 121. All right. Tanya in 5 for today, the 17th day of the month of Av.
Thank you for joining Tanya in 5. Today's lesson for the 27th of Av. We continue in the 8th letter in the Igeres HaKodesh. We brought down previously that the sage Rabbi Elazar, Talmud tells us, would give a coin to charity to a poor person before prayers, and then he would face God, and as the Alter Rebbe explains, would be illuminated with a great light in his prayers. The question is, how is it that by just giving a mere coin to charity before prayers, that you get such a gift from God, such a light that it should illuminate our prayers? Seems to be incomparable to the act of giving, even though of course it's a mitzvah, but yet we're talking about having one's prayers illuminated with this light of God that the higher worlds cannot absorb, but we absorb down here. Of course, the prayers have to be done with the love and awe of God. So the Alter Rebbe offers a metaphor in order to bring out this idea, and it's the idea of sowing seeds or planting kernels. The shoot that sprouts from the seed, and the tree with its fruits from the kernel. So you have a seed, and then you have this wonderful fruit-bearing tree that comes from it, for example. So the nature and the essence of the fruit are not that of the seed and the kernel at all. Why? For the nature and the essence has been decayed of this very seed. You put a seed in the ground, the first thing it does is it rots. So the fact that it rots, it is not it that is the source of this tree or of this grain. What is it then? It is the vegetative property that's in the soil that is actually the source of the fruit-bearing tree. It's merely that the soil itself needs to be elicited from it by way of the seed to bring out its potential into actuality.
But the seed itself and the kernel that is planted in the ground becomes decayed in the soil and actually is consumed by the soil and becomes now part of the soil itself, united and part of the soil. So it's not the seed itself that's the source, it's a vegetative property. And this is how the vegetative property actualizes its potential and infuses vitality to grow a shoot of the kind of the seed. Though and through this, what happens? You have a great increase. You put in one seed, and you have many fruit. Moreover, the very nature and the essence of the fruit far excels the very nature of the seed. The fruit is tasty, the seed isn't. So not only do we have many fruit that come out from this one seed, but the quality of the seed compared to the fruit that it bears is incomparable, which all leads us to understand that it's not the seed itself that's the source, that is what brings the growth, but it's the vegetative property in the soil that is responsible. So if that's the case, what do you need the seed for? It's only that the seed is an arousal from below that arouses the quality of vegetative property, this a spiritual vegetative property, that it should now spring forth and actualize its quality in the unique particularization of what that seed is evoking and eliciting from the vegetative property of the soil. And this is what the Arizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria of blessed memory, referred to as the elevation of Mayin Nukvin, of the feminine waters. In other words, it's an arousal from below that creates now that something should be elicited from above. So what we have over here is that this seed is incomparable compared to what the result is, the fruit-bearing tree. And this is because of the vegetative property that it comes from. This is the metaphor that the Alter Rebbe will elaborate upon, and perhaps we can see already where it's going in tomorrow's class, God willing. And that's Tanya and 5. Thank you for joining.
All right. And here we go now. Sefer HaMitzvahs of the Rambam. Mitzvah Minute class number 88.
Today we continue the list of illicit relationships forbidden in the Torah. Negative Mitzvah 336 is the prohibition against engaging in relations with one's own daughter. Although this mitzvah is stated nowhere clearly in the Torah, the sages derived, using one of the 13 methods by which the Torah is expounded, that this actually is included in the count of the 613 biblical commandments. Negative Mitzvah 335 is the prohibition against engaging in relations with one's maternal granddaughter. Negative Mitzvah 337, one may not marry both a woman and her daughter at the same time. Negative Mitzvah 338, one may not marry a woman and her paternal granddaughter at the same time. And Negative Mitzvah 339, one may not marry a woman and her maternal granddaughter at the same time.
All right. Fantastic stuff. All right, matters of Mashiach. All right, we are learning about Mashiach for the 17th day of Av. There was no holiday as great in Israel of the 15th day of Av and the Day of Atonement. On those days, the unmarried girls of Jerusalem would go out wearing borrowed white dresses to avoid embarrassing any girl who didn't own such a dress. They would dance in the vineyards, and the young men would go out and find a match. Likewise, Hashem is destined to make a dance for the righteous, and he will sit with them in the Garden of Eden. Then each one will be able to point to Hashem with his finger and say, as it says, "Look, this is our God. We hoped for him, he would save us. This is the Lord for whom we hoped. Let us rejoice and be happy in his salvation." That's from the Gemara, from the Talmud in Gemara Tainus. All right. It said that I had a message, but I don't. All right, that's okay. Every descent brings an ascent, and every hardship brings transformation. The descent of the 9th of Av was so deep that after recovering on the 15th of Av, the Jewish people had reached heights similar to the times of Mashiach. That's why they danced. Their joy was a prelude to the dance in the time to come. We too must use the sorrow of exile to attain new heights, and through this we can experience the joy of Mashiach. And as we have learned many, many times, we need to live now as if Mashiach were here, and that will help us make it happen quicker and quicker, speedily in our days. All right, I've got a Moshe Tzvi for you, a Shmuel Tzvi here.
We know that the Mashiach is about to... What does this mean? First of all, we have to understand... What does this mean? First of all, we have to understand that God has many names. Hashem has many, many different names. And each name represents a different relationship that God has with the world, or a different way in which God reveals himself. A different attribute of Hashem, a way in which highlights a different personality trait of Hashem. So you say, but Hashem is one, right? So why does he have different names? I'll give you an example. Hashem of 100% is one. And these different names of Hashem in no way, shape, or form contradict the fact that Hashem is one. And we'll explain why. I'll give you an example. I always say, a father whose name is David. His wife calls him David, and his kids call him Abba, father. And his friends at work, and the people who work from at work say Mr. Cohen, let's say. His name is David Cohen. At work they call him Mr. Cohen. His wife calls him David. His kids call him Daddy, Abba, Tati, whatever. What is going on? Is he a different person? Does he have is he like two different beings in one? No, he's the same person. But based on his relationship with different people, he has a different name in which they call him. So too, and how much more so Hashem. Hashem is one. There's none else besides him. And the different names that Hashem has are different ways that Hashem connects to the world, or different ways in which he expresses himself. So the name Hashem is Hashem as he's completely beyond the world and he creates everything. Hashem who is beyond the world and creates. That's the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Hashem. It's Hashem as he is completely beyond the world. Completely removed from the world, above the world. And the name Elokim is Hashem as he is enclosed and hidden within the world. Nature, and we know that this name Elokim has the same gematria, the same numerical value of the word Hateva, nature. And we know that the gematria, the numerical value of a word, represents its intrinsic meaning or intrinsic secret to it. So the fact that Elokim, which already is the name Elokim, which already represents God as he's enclosed within nature, has the same numerical value as nature, there's obviously something going on here. So what is interesting about this verse? These two names of Hashem represent completely different ways in which God reveals himself. Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, is Hashem as he's completely beyond the world. And Elokim is Hashem as he's completely in the world, hidden within the world. Nature, how the world seems to run on its own course without a master, how it seems to be random events occurring. And by the way, I just want to emphasize, if this video is complicated for you, please watch it a multiple number of times till it enters your heart. Because these are deep topics, and don't be discouraged if you have trouble. And even if you do understand it, re-watch it again. You'll get deeper into the etzem, the essence of this topic, this idea. We're saying Hashem, as beyond the world, is Hashem, is Elokim, is the nature, is the God of the nature of the world.
All right, fantastic, heavy stuff. All right, our PSAs.
here in Kentucky bringing relief with the Masbia relief team. You could see these heartbreaking scenes, the debris coming up till the highway, a school bus inside, there's a truck, the water that's 20 feet lower than us came up all the way to the top, houses all broken down, trees, and people are displaced. We were at a shelter today. There were people, blind people that we were trying to help, all people with medical conditions, and just regular families who just from one minute to the next lost everything they have. So please join the Masbia relief team and bring relief to those families suffering here in Kentucky. Thank you.
All right, Masbia. Available by text number 27879. And you will get hot meals every single day and 7 days worth of pantry food. Now, this disaster in Kentucky was no joke, all right? 37 people lost their lives, the worst flooding to hit the state in decades. Chabad of Kentucky is also on the scene. It's the third disaster for Chabad of Kentucky, including relief efforts for a devastating line of tornadoes in December, a fire that destroyed the Chabad Center in Louisville on the last day of Pesach in April, January and February. Really, really tough times for Rabbi Avram Litvin and Rabbi Shlomo Litvin, a good friend of this broadcast. He said, I feel like a mourner on Chol HaMoed, the intermediate days when one cannot mourn and must observe the holiday despite the sadness, as we try to figure out how to rebuild and where to rebuild and reestablish Chabad House. We are still needed by others. We put our own mourning aside to help those in need. We've had the privilege of offering our support to the people of Kentucky following the devastating effects of the tornadoes. And now, after the flood, we're glad to be able to provide some assistance to those currently experiencing difficulty. They are joined by Israeli relief from the Council General of Israel, Anat Sultan Dadon. Ironically, the governor and his wife were supposed to visit Israel last week. The trip has now been canceled because of the emergency. Chabad of Kentucky is there, as is Masbia. They've set up a fund to help the victims of disaster. If you'd like to go more of that, go to Chabad of Kentucky on the internet or to masbia.org. They can all help. All right. In Rockland County, if you need assistance, you go to tomcheshabbos.org, and if you're in Lakewood and need assistance, you go to tomche.org. In Chicago, it's the Chicago Center Kitchen at breakfastwithelli.live/Chicago Food Bank. And for all your other needs, it's achiezer.org. Achiezer is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. All right. Hatzalah EMS service is available 24/7. Go to hatzalah.org or any one of these numbers on your screen. And if you ever see a hate crime in progress, you need to call 911 immediately. And then you can text the word hate to 81336. That's the same number that you would text for monkeypox information, by the way. MissAskim.org. MissAskim.org is there for times of bereavement where you need a hand. Even if you just need a shoulder to cry on, they are there to help you out. The organization known as JustOneShabbos.com is there to help provide Shabbos. If you have a teenager or a child who is not keeping Shabbos and Yom Tov, you could reach out to these people and they can help you navigate those tough waters. And please,
where
we're still in the throes of all kinds of garbage over here. It's really important for us to wear a mask. Even if you are one of those people that's venturing, which I don't recommend, please wear a mask if you are in public, if you're in crowded spaces, if you're going to a restaurant. While ordering and waiting for your food, you should wear a mask. And if you're just sitting around the table schmoozing and not eating, you should wear a mask. You know the drill, all right? Get vaccinated, because that's what's making this go away. The more people that are immune to this, the better chance we have of making it go away. And yeah, the numbers are going down. And that's because I'm seeing people wear masks. Not a lot, but I'm seeing some people wear masks. And I know people are getting vaccinated. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Daled, the first 4 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph, that stands for Achdus, unity. Beis, for bracha and for blessing. Gimel stands for gaiva, arrogance. Daled stands for dalut, poverty. Where there is unity, Aleph and Beis, there is blessing. Where there is arrogance, Gimel and Daled, there is poverty. Interesting, huh? Here's an interesting thought. Remember Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Daled. All right, bring heaven down to earth. You must always have good things to think about. That's a rule. You should always have good things to think about, because an empty mind is a vacuum awaiting destructive thoughts. And where your thoughts are, that's where you are. All of them. You are your thoughts, and you can control your thoughts. Not easy? No, I agree. It's not easy. You want to talk about it? Come to me on social media, any of the Actors Rabbis groups. At WhatsApp, Twitter, Spaces, Telegram, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, LinkedIn, Clubhouse, or at theactorsrabbi.com, where you can avail yourself of life coaching services should you need them. All right, let's make an after bracha.
Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam boirei nefashos rabois v'chesronan al kol ma sheborasa lachayos boem nefesh kol chai baruch chai ha'olamim.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to my Patreon sponsors, Pest Pro Riddle, Tarzan Orchids, Dina D Design, Dr. Susan Spitzer, Bracha Biederman. Please contribute today by going to patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, or breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar. And you can become a sponsor today. Use this handy QR code right up here. All right. All right. We've got an Avram Fried song for you today. I know. I'm sorry. Benny Friedman, Avram's nephew. Benny Friedman, called Yama. You're going to like this. Yeah. It is Sunday, the first day of the week, the 17th day of Av. Go out and do something nice, something good for someone today. In the words of Rabbi Isaac Hamler, have affection for a fellow. Hashem will have affection for you. Do a kindness for a fellow. Hashem will do a kindness for you. Befriend a fellow, and Hashem will befriend you. Make it a great and glorious day. You know what? I should put that into the thing. Great and glorious day. There you go. Now it's in there. Great and glorious day today. All right? Spread kindness. That's the way to do it. Have a great day. Come back tomorrow. Bring someone to watch and listen with you. I love you. Goodbye. Shavua Tov.
Yama, yama, yama. Yama, yama, yama. בארץ הקדושה. קום והתהלך בארץ הקדושה, בארץ אשר הרקע. קום והתהלך בארץ, התהלך בארץ הקדושה. קום והתהלך בארץ